Another former Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound, also Erie Otter, and a Barrie Colt with the second trade of his OHL career. Rob Hisey joins the podcast. Hey, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for making time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You know, one of the things about you that everybody says when your name comes up is high skill. Look him up on YouTube and watch those crazy goals that he scored. Who inspired you when you were younger? Where did this talent develop?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My favorite players growing up were probably Doug Gilmour was my ultimate favorite player. I would say it's actually like the first time I learned how to pick the puck up was at a hockey camp he was at, and he did it and showed everybody, and I was kind of like just obsessed with it after that. So I'd say that was my first inspiration, and then as I got older, a little bit more mature, I started looking at guys that are kind of like me a lot, like body wise and stuff. And Marty St. Louis was probably the guy that I ultimately really looked up to and watched and loved the way he played and all that kind of stuff. So that was probably the guy that I personally tried to model the most after.
So would you spend extra time after practice or on your own just working on these sort of specialized skills then?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would hours hours with it, and sometimes my coaches weren't too fond of it as well. During practice, kind of always wanted the puck on my stick, and in between drills, always wanted to have the puck, and yeah, it was something I took pride in was my ability with the puck, and as a smaller player, you kind of have to have something special, I think, in your game, and that was kind of my thing was my ability with the puck. So.
You mentioned small player or smaller player, and that's something that comes up a lot too when we look at your career and follow what you did. Did that get on your nerves? Did it inspire you? Did you wear it as a chip on your shoulder? What, because I mean, I'm sure you heard it all the damn time.
Yeah, for sure. I heard it since I was 12 years old, probably. So, yeah, it was something that for sure fueled me a bit. Was people like doubting you, and but ultimately it's up to you and what you see in yourself, and you know, it's uh, it's not kind of what other people say about you. It's what you say when you look in the mirror, I think, and I tried to bring that to my game too, and I was able to do some pretty good things with hockey. I think I was a generation too early, maybe, but you know, ultimately, I was able to make a career of the game that I loved. So, I'd say it was a great experience in hockey for sure.
You kind of read my mind when you said maybe a generation too early, because I wondered when you look at the game today, if you don't think, man, if I'm born 10, 15 years later, I'm right in with the way the game is played today.
Yeah, I've said that a couple times actually to people. It's there's a bit more room now for guys that were kind of like myself, and um, but still, I think I paved a pretty good path for what I was given, and the big thing is like I had to earn everything I got. That's what I say too. Like in my day, a bigger guy had to prove he couldn't play, where a small guy had to prove he could play. So it was, you know, it's interesting now because now I'm coaching my son, and they're going into Bantam this year, and you see it all over again, kind of like everybody around the game. Oh, this guy's small. This guy's this guy's that. So it's I feel like the game's kind of going back that way too. Like teams want to be big and physical and strong and fast, and um, there's obviously like you look at the NHL this year, Marcia Show won the MVP and he's the smallest guy on the ice. So there's still room for those guys, but um, like I said, you gotta have something special. So it's interesting. It's kind of going back that way.
Any of your tendencies in your son? Do you rag on him for staying on the ice, goofing around with the puck?
Yeah. it's interesting because I was a super offensive player, and now that I've gotten into the coaching side, I'm so I'm so all over them about the D side of the puck and all that stuff. So you know, I always say like all my coaches were always on me about playing D zone and all this stuff. So, but now when you're coaching, you kind of understand it, right? And it's great though, because like I've had some amazing coaches throughout my time, and you take a little bit from this guy, that guy, this guy, and you're always learning. That's the best part about it. Like I played 14 years of professional hockey, and I'm still learning. So it's great. It's awesome.
If you're trying to preach defense to your son and his teammates, you have to keep them off the internet then, Rob, because as soon as they see you on YouTube, they're going to be like, well, come on, if you got to do this, I get to do it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, this day and age of kid too, it's they're they're like their attention span is very quick too. So it's like they like these like 30-second clips, or like when we were coming up and playing, we would watch the whole game. These guys are their phones are at their disposal, and they get 30-second TikToks of like a highlight reel. So they get on the ice and they all think they're just gonna do that every time they're on the ice. So it's interesting. An interesting dynamic for sure. But yeah, it's been so much fun, and just to be able to be around my boys and see them enjoy the game like I did, it's awesome.
So, not to dwell on it too much, I promise I'll move on. But I mean,
Yeah.
Bar Down, TSN, Bleacher Report, they've all got videos posted of stuff that you did. And every time if you Google the name Rob Hisey hockey, this is going to start coming up all over the place. Do you have a favorite? Do you ever watch your own videos?
uh, yeah, you've watched them over the years and stuff. My favorite would probably be either the one I pulled off in the Finnish Elite League or in Austria, because just in Austria was cool because it was in overtime. It was a game winner in overtime, so that was pretty cool. And then in Finland, it was kind of like one of the first guys to be able to do it in a game on the move, I guess you'd call it, like at kind of full speed, and that was a pretty cool one as well. So those would be my two favorite things. I guess the nicer goals I scored, you'd
And
say.
the Austria one, if I'm not mistaken, was that the year you won the championship over there?
No, it wasn't. Actually, it
Oh,
was my first in Austria. I was younger. I did do it that year as well, but it never made the internet. So
they missed that one somehow.
yeah, yeah.
Tell me about getting drafted to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds in the OHL. Kid from Oakville, so you're in the Toronto area. Did you know anything about the Sioux?
Yeah, I did. I actually it's funny, when I was younger, my dad took me to a OHL game in Niagara Falls, and they were actually playing the Sioux, and Ted Nolan was the coach at the time. And, just seeing that game, kind of, that's when I first kind of got the first look at the OHL. Um, I was a smaller kid. I was pretty talented though in minor midget. Or it was bantam then, but I guess it's called minor midget now. Um, or U16 now, sorry. But but yeah, it's you know, I was kind of gearing towards going to school, to be honest, just because I was smaller, and I didn't really know what would happen, and I was ended up getting drafted in the ninth round to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. My coach at the time actually was a scout for the Sioux, and I have a feeling he had something to do with me getting drafted there. Um, but yeah, it was interesting. I kind of didn't even know who I was when they drafted me. I went down to the table at the Hershey Center, and I stood there for about 5 minutes. They're like, "Well, can we help you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got drafted." You're like, "Oh, sorry." Yeah, so it was interesting. But then I went to camp and kind of, I think, turned some heads when I got on the ice, and after that rookie camp, they kind of followed me my first year of tier two in Aurora, and they were kind of all over me to sign from that moment on. After that rookie camp, I did pretty well. So yeah, it was interesting, and I think I signed that Christmas actually for the following year. So it was a cool time.
You certainly made your mark and showed that you belonged. More than 309, I think, was the total points you had in your OHL career. And I mean, if you're with one team, that's going to put you up there and maybe the leading scorers of in a franchise's history when you put up numbers like that. How long did it take you to kind of get used to that game in the O?
Honestly, I feel like my year of tier 2 in Aurora helped me. I was playing against older, bigger, stronger guys as well, and I did really well there. I think I was leading the team. Maybe I can't remember the team. I'm pretty sure I led the team, and maybe even at one point leaving the league and scoring as well. So I kind of got my feet wet there, and I got to play a lot too, which helped a lot. Um, and then when I went to the Sioux, Craig Hartsburg was the coach, and I think he liked my compete and stuff like that. So, I was fortunate that I got to play, which is half the battle, right? It's when you're a young guy getting in and actually getting minutes and being able to play, and once you have the taste and you can, I kind of felt like, okay, I can play here with these guys. You know, it, you kind of take off running, and I think I did that. And I think my rookie year, I think I scored 20 goals in my rookie year or something like that too. So it was a good rookie year, and kind of set the tone for kind of what I was going to do in my career in the OHL, which was great.
What's life like for, your 16, 17-year-old kid? I always think about this because you can't get any further away from home in the OHL than the Sioux. Your parents probably can't come to as many games, certainly, as they would if you were closer. What's it like for a young guy when you're going through that?
Yeah, it wasn't easy, I would say, but at the same time, I had like phenomenal billet family. The Tamilos was their name, an older couple, and they were amazing. They doted over me, and it was awesome. Like, they were an older couple and Italian, so it was always fed right, and it was great. It was honestly amazing, and I actually loved the Sioux. It was a great hockey city. It was a great place to play. It was awesome, to be honest. I just loved every second of it. It was good.
It's the same when we still go up there as media now. We get fed very well in the media room in Sault Ste. Marie. So you'll be happy to know nothing's changed.
Yeah, it's awesome.
How did you find out about the trade to Erie?
Well, it was interesting. It's an interesting one because I love the Sioux. I actually really liked it there, and the second year I was there, John Van Beesbroek took the team over, and after practice one day, he came up to me and just said, like, "Listen, we have two first round draft picks in the middle, Jeff Carter and Peter Tadachuk, and we have you as well. And we really need a goalie, and we think you might be uh, expendable, kind of to be able to trade." And I said, "Well, if you want to trade me, go ahead, trade me. You know, it's all part of it, I think, right?" So, um, and then it kind of came out that I kind of asked for a trade, which I never really did. So, as a 16, 17-year-old, it's kind of hard to like navigate that, so but I ended up getting traded to Erie. And that was actually, probably looking back at it, a really good thing, because I went to a new situation, and they were kind of just coming off an OHL title, and um, they had lost Corey Pecker and Brad Boys, and there's room there for me to kind of take the reins as like a top line guy. So it ended up being pretty good for myself.
You end up as the leading scorer on the team in your first full year there.
Yeah, I ended up the leading scorer. Yeah, it was a good situation. I mean, we didn't make the playoffs. We were a pretty bad team my first year there. Like, I got there halfway through, I think, and we weren't the greatest team, but I got a lot of opportunity, a lot of power play time, a lot of minutes, and was able to kind of put my mark on being there as well. So, and we had some good pieces too, like Chris Campoli was there, who I'm still friends with today. He was a phenomenal player. Mike London was a rookie as well. He was a great player. We had, Mike Rice was an older guy. When I came in, he was an overager, but he was a great player as well too. So it was a good team for sure.
What was it like playing for Dave McQueen?
It was great. He played me to death. He was so like I can't complain about anything playing wise at all. He won in the OHL a lot, so he was a good coach. Like I said, you everywhere you go, you just take a little bit of every coach that you have, and you you try to put it into your game and take bits and pieces and yeah, it was great. I like my time in Erie. I think the next year, my third year in the OHL, I ended up like fourth or fifth or something in the OHL in scoring. So I had 96 points or something. So it was awesome. Like it's a great experience. That rink was packed every single night. It was sold out every night. It was such a cool place to play. So yeah, it was awesome.
I wondered about the atmosphere as a player, especially after the championship, because I think that really captured imaginations in Erie for sure. And the times, I mean, I obviously don't get to be there for every game, but the times I travel in, it seems to be like when that building is full, they're passionate fans there.
Yeah, it's a great spot to play junior hockey. It honestly, that building was probably the closest to like a pro building, I would say, like packed and loud and passionate. It was a cool place to play for sure.
So that year you finished with 96 points. You lead the Otters. That's the time you led the team in scoring. You mentioned top five in the league. And then you guys pull off a bit of a first round upset there. You're the 7 seed knocking off the 2 seed in Sarnia in the first round.
Yeah, it was a really good team that year. We had a lot going for us. We ran into a juggernaut in London, unfortunately. But yeah, that first round was real cool. Like beating a 2 seed was awesome. I kind of remember bits and pieces of it. But at the deadline, we picked up Jeff Platt too, so that really helped. That catapulted us a bit too. He was a really good player. So, and in that series, I think he was dynamite too. So, yeah, it was a good time to be playing in Erie. It was fun. It was exciting. So it was awesome.
You talk about running into that juggernaut in London, and no question about it, they go on to the West Final against Guelph, where the Storm win it in seven. But that series you played against the Knights, do you remember the hit from Danny Bois? Because he got 8 games suspension for it.
Yeah, I remember it. It was, I think it would be 25 today. But uh, yeah, I remember it, and it kind of knocked me out of the series too, to be honest. So, but yeah, it I forget what game it was in actually, but I think we lost in five, if I remember. I don't know for sure, maybe four. I don't know if we got swept or not, but yeah, I remember it. Yeah, it's part of the game, though. It happens. So wasn't the last time I got hit bad.
Well, I was going to ask you if that sort of thing happened as a smaller guy, not to dwell on it, but with the sorts of things you could do, and maybe sometimes the other team is like, "Hey, I'm going to go get that hot dog over there."
Yeah, it happens. Even if you're not hot dogging, guys recognize who's on the other team and who's doing well, and you want to be physical on guys that are playing well. It still happens today in today's game too, but it's part of the game sometimes, and every once in a while you have to stick up for yourself, and it's it is what it is. Though I was never shy of anything like that, so it's
There was one more trade in there for you, and I guess it takes you back pretty close to home as you finish your OHL career in Barrie. What was behind that move?
yeah, that move was kind of I wanted that move, to be honest. It was my overage year. I kind of wanted to go to a team that I felt like had a really good chance to win, and I kind of wanted to be back in Canada as an overager too. So that was me asking for that to happen, and they made that happen for me. So I was good, and I ended up in Barrie, and that was maybe my favorite place to play. It was awesome. My coach was amazing there, Marty Williamson. He's back in Barrie too. So we had a great team too there. In my opinion, we should have won our side that year. We just couldn't pull it off against Ottawa, but that was probably the best team I played on in the OHL, to be honest. So we had a lot of good players, and yeah, my time in Barrie was awesome. I always said like when I retire, I was going to move to Barrie and like live there full time, but it was a great city. I loved it there, so it was awesome.
You bounced around in pro hockey. You mentioned the 14 seasons. I mean, AHL, East Coast. I think the CHL was in there as well. Europe. What led you overseas?
Well, initially, I was with Dallas Stars training camp. I went there a couple times. They really liked me a lot. Actually, I went there right after my draft year. Ended up staying a long time. Almost signed with them a couple times, and then after my overage year, I went there and they offered me like an AHL East Coast contract, and I kind of said, if I'm going to end up in the East Coast, I'd rather go as a free agent so I can get called up anywhere. And they actually had one of their top scouts from Europe, Kari Taco, was on the board with a team in Finland, and they said that they were going to send one of their other prospects there to play, and asked me would I be interested in going there, and I said yeah, for sure, that would be awesome. So that's kind of how I ended up there. And throughout that year, actually, like Guy Carbonneau and Doug Armstrong came over 2 or 3 times to meet with us and like go over how we were doing, all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of part of that organization for that year, which was cool. And then the year after that, they kind of offered me an AHL contract, a straight AHL contract, and I got offered a pretty cool contract in Germany, the DL. So I was 22 years old and saw kind of the money I was going to make there, and I was like, I'm gonna go to Germany. I think. Looking back at it, like you know, the smarter thing maybe would have been to go to the AHL, but I don't regret anything I ever did. I saw the whole world, and was able to make a living playing the game. So yeah, I ended up in Germany, and then kind of went to Sweden and back to Finland, and then I met my wife, got married. We were having our first child, and we kind of wanted to stay at home, and I decided like I never gave it a go at home, so that's the year I ended up signing in the Central League at the beginning of the year, and I just said I'm going to give it a kick this year back home, and I lasted I think like 19 games in the Central League before I got called up, so it's pretty cool situation too. So
How much different was the game in Europe versus back in North America? I mean, I get the sense that the European game would have fit your style a little bit better.
yeah, it did. Finland was very similar to here, in my opinion. It's physical, it's fast, it's probably the closest I'd say to North America would be Finland. Germany was like the team I played for there too. Like it was a German coach, and it was very like soccer. The system we played was like to sit back and wait, and wasn't really my style, to be honest. So I kind of got in trouble with that coach a little bit, but yeah, it depends where you go too. Sweden was awesome. It was such a good league. It was some of the best hockey I've ever played. Probably was in Sweden. And then the North American game, it's just on your body. It's taxing. I think just the travel, the games, the number of games, being on the bus all the time. It's kind of a grind until you get to ultimately when you get to the next level, it's a little bit easier, I would say, like travel wise, and you're on the bus, you're kind of getting treated a little bit better. But yeah, and in Europe, the nice thing was you were home every night in your own bed. You didn't play that many games. It was less games, so it was a little bit easier on the body. So I'd say that's kind of the difference.
Even when you're getting on the bad side of a German coach and maybe he's yelling at you in German, you understand that you're in trouble, I guess, eh?
Yeah, yeah, you definitely understand when you're in the doghouse for sure. You get it.
You did get the chance through all of your effort. You did sign that contract with the New York Islanders, just never got to play that NHL game.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment when I got that contract. I was actually in my kitchen with my wife in the summer, and my agent called and said, we got you a deal done. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, to think, I think I was like 27 years old or something too. So it was a long time coming for me, and just that opportunity was really cool. I had a really good camp actually that year too in Long Island. I played 3 exhibition games, I think, too, and I did really well in the games as well. And I got off to like a really hot start in the AHL that year too. And I think I had 14 and 11 or something start the year in the A. And Jack Capuano was my coach, and he really liked me a lot. I think that's why I got that contract, to be honest. And he actually he got promoted to the NHL about 20 games into the season, maybe that year. And he went to the NHL, and then I actually got really hurt that year. I hurt my knee really bad, and I honestly think if I didn't get hurt, I probably would have got a game or two that year. But that's the way hockey goes sometimes. And then the next year, that's when I decided just to go back to Europe. We're having our second child, and the HL salary just wasn't going to cut it anymore. So my coach from the year before in the HL, Rob Dahm, got the job in Austria, and he called me and said, like, I'd love you to come over here. And so that's when we decided to go back to Europe. So, yeah.
You certainly didn't see terrible places in Europe. I mean, my goodness, Germany, Austria, Sweden, Finland. You didn't get any of the dumps along the way, did you?
No, no, and Austria was amazing. Like when we found that team in Linz, it was amazing. They treated us so well, and I ended up staying there for 6 years. So that was kind of like our home. It's where our kids grew up. We won a championship there. It's a special place, and will always be a special place. It's probably, I'd say, in my pro career, that was like home for me. So it was, yeah. It's to think about it now, it's crazy, but yeah, it was such a cool spot. And the team kind of, when I went there, the rink grew, everything grew. It was awesome. It was a cool thing to be a part of for sure. See hockey take off like that in the city.
That championship, Rob, what's it like going all that way and finishing, on top of an entire league? Anytime we talk to guys, doesn't matter where the championship was won, the championship is what matters. What was the experience like?
Yeah, it was amazing, to be honest. It was that whole year you could just feel like something was special about the group we had. And I want to say we never lost 2 games in a row that year. So, which was pretty crazy to think about. It's like something Rob talked about all the time too, is like good teams never lose 2 in a row. So something we took pride in as well. But yeah, it was awesome. When you go through something like that and then you win, it's such a cool feeling. And to this day, like guys from that team, like I was last year, I went to Minnesota with my son, and I ended up catching up with a guy, Danny Ehrman, that was on that team. It was like we never we hadn't seen each other in 8 years. Or like, no time went by. It's pretty cool.
Did you always know you wanted to stay connected to the game? Because obviously you've got the hockey school now and you're still very closely connected to it.
Yeah, it's my passion. It's my love, and I always knew I was going to be connected. When I retired, I interviewed with a couple teams for assistant coaching jobs in major junior, and like where I was at in my life with 3 kids and stuff, it just didn't make sense at the time. It's something that, once my boys are older and kind of gone, it's something I want to get into for sure, is coaching, now I've kind of got my feet wet with my kids. So but yeah, I actually went to school for firefighting my last couple of years that I was playing, and I tried to get on for like 2 years. I was applying everywhere, and couldn't get on. It's a tough gig to get, but in the meantime, I started my kind of academy, and it kind of took off as well. So I know it's been great. I enjoy being around the game, and kind of a nerd for the game, I guess you'd say, and I love it so much. So, it's a good fit.
As a nerd for the game, do you get into the analytics side? Are you just watching it all the time, looking for new moves to incorporate? Like, what does a nerd for the game mean for you?
Yeah, like anytime it's on, I'll watch it. I'll see how teams are playing. Like, it's interesting because like the game changes so much in a short period of time, and just how teams are playing, like how they're playing their D zone, what they're trying to accomplish. Like um, the game now. You watch teams play; they're outmanning all the time. Like everything's outman the puck and get the puck back as fast as you can, and and also like my boys are playing in Oakville, and there's some pretty cool hockey minds around Oakville as well. Like Sheldon Keefe's kids are playing in Oakville, and one of them plays with my son, so I get to pick his brain all the time too, which is pretty cool. And another guy, John Snowden, who was the assistant coach in the AHL, plays with my other boy, and just I pick his brain all the time as well. And they send me video all the time, and so it's pretty cool to be able to share that with like a U15 hockey team, like stuff that pro teams are kind of doing. So it's cool. It's really cool.
You ever offer Keefe advice for the Leafs power play?
No, 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 no. I think he gets enough of that living where he lives.
You're right. That shows that you'd fit the poor guy. I mean, does he even get a minute's rest when he's in a rink?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's kind of. I always say I don't wish that upon anybody. To be honest, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, but he does an amazing job with it. He always has time for everybody, and um, I always say, I'm like, how does he do it? I don't know, but it's it's really cool to see him. I mean, he has time for everybody all the time, so it's great.
What's your philosophy now when it comes to teaching the game, coaching the game?
Yeah, like when I first retired, I kind of got into doing this, and I would take my kid to some stuff too to go around, and I just found like lots of guys can make a drill and put you through a drill, but it's like in the moment, like stopping a kid and correcting them, saying like, no, this is kind of how you have to do it, that kind of thing. Also, I feel like um, something I pride myself on is like teaching the game, like yeah, you can go around this stick handling apparatus, you can do this, that, the other thing, but it's like can you angle, can you close space, do you understand all these things, right? So things that are going to matter in a game, like getting the puck off the yellow. Are you skilled enough to get a puck and take it off the yellow, get it inside the dots, and that kind of thing. So just things that are going to matter for kids, and teaching them the game the right way, like stopping them in the moment, saying like, no, this wasn't right, let's do it again. So that's something I kind of take pride in when I'm teaching.
Are we going to see another generation of Hisey come through the Ontario Hockey League?
Yeah, we'll see. Actually, we're in Florida right now. My son just was in a college showcase thing down here, so which is pretty cool. See the other side of it, because in Ontario we're kind of always pushed into the OHL. But if they did end up the OHL, I would love it. It'd be great. But I'm just whatever they decide to do. I just want to support them as much as I can, and if they get the opportunity to play in the OHL, it'd be amazing, obviously. So we'll see what happens.
When you think back on your OHL experience, was there a city or a rink that just gave you fits that you hated playing in?
Yes, the old rink in Windsor. I hated that rink so much. I think I got 50 stitches in that rink over the time too. So yeah, that was the worst rink, man. Oh God, I hated that rink.
Were the stitches from the players or the fans? Because they got pretty
Yeah,
rowdy in there.
yeah, yeah. That was it was from the players, but man, the fans they would throw batteries on the ice. It was, and we played them actually my first year in the playoffs in the first round. We played them in that rink, and it was yeah, that rink was tough rink to play in. But I mean, if you were in winter, it was awesome. But uh, yeah, it was classic. The fans behind the bench would just give it to us. Actually, I remember in the playoffs, Emery actually like loosened their seat with a screwdriver. The one game was hilarious. It's pretty fun.
That's right, because the first row was like right behind the bench, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah.
so he loosened
It
one of
was,
the seats in the stands.
yeah, so when they put it down, it just fell right off. It was hilarious.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say the 4 years in the OHL meant to your development as a hockey player, as a young man, to kind of maybe lay the foundation for your future?
Yeah, it was massive. It taught me kind of how to become a man, I guess you'd say, like away from home. Kind of have to your time management. You're on your own. You have to kind of figure it out. I had some pretty amazing coaches too that taught me the game as well. And then just being a smaller guy and playing against older guys too taught me a lot. And how to use your body, how to protect yourself, all that kind of stuff. So just prepared me so much for the next level, and also kind of and then as you become an older guy, kind of how to treat the younger guys, how to be a good teammate, that kind of thing too. Like teach you a lot. You grow up a lot. It's probably your most important years as a kid too, right? As a young adult, and I think it's when I look back at it, it's kind of like the player I became was because of the OHL, I would say. So it's pretty cool.
How did you handle the travel? Neither Erie nor the Sioux are that easy when it comes to getting from one game to the next.
Yeah, to be honest, that's probably something that helped me a lot too. Is like when you're in pro, you're always on the bus too. You're on the bus, and so I got used to it pretty quickly. So and actually it's cool because like on the bus, it's like where you really bond with your teammates as well too. So uh, I had some really good friends in the Sioux. I was really close with a guy named Jeff Weber. He was our goalie there, and he was actually at my wedding party. And just hours and hours on the bus and sitting beside each other, and you become pretty close. So yes, it's when you think back to it, like those years are pretty influential in your life, right? So it's cool.
It's so much different now because everybody's phone has so much power, and they just like buses are quiet, man. There's no movies anymore and stuff like that. It's way different.
Yeah, it's be hard to like discipline now as a coach. Like remember, like no movie on the bus, but now like you just open your phone and watch a movie by yourself, right? So uh, yeah, lights out, but everybody has a phone for a light, right? So yeah, it's different for sure. Like that's a big thing, like especially with this younger generation, right? I'm coaching them now, so it's like your phones are don't come in the dressing room. Like you're a teammate, you interact with your teammates, and it's important, right? So
I think that's super important. And you were talking about the bonding that you would get on those road trips with your teammates and stuff. You have to that's part of what being on a team is all about. That's part of the reason we put our kids into sports, to build those friendships.
yeah, for sure. It's I can think about even now, like now that I have kids, like all my wives and I's close friends are sports parents now too, right? So it's the game brings so many people together, and it's a small world too. So it doesn't matter where we go now. I can go to a tournament, like I said, in Minnesota, and you know people there too. So it's a small world. So it's pretty cool.
Well, it's a small world that made this connection because a guy that used to live in Cambridge, who's a fan of this podcast, said, "Hey, I grew up with the Hiseys, and I know Rob really well. John is the guy that put us in touch here. Speaking of small worlds,
Yeah, I've known that family for pretty much my whole life too. So his dad was the MC at our wedding too. So it's
come
pretty
on,
cool. Yeah, 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 yeah,
that's
yeah,
unreal."
yeah, yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, John was talking about how cool it was going to watch you play when he was just a little kid. You're like the big brother figure or something.
Yeah, I guess so. It's interesting. Fun.
Well, listen, it's been great catching up with you. Thanks very much for making the time. Good luck to your boy. And, I hope to see you around a rink in Major Junior, whether you're coaching or he's playing.
That'd be great. Awesome. Appreciate your time.